The auditorium was packed that Friday evening. Parents filled every seat, phones already out and ready to record their kids' big moments. The annual talent show at Westbridge Academy was always a huge deal. Kids had been practicing for months, and tonight was their chance to shine under the bright stage lights. Backstage, 16-year-old Claire Richardson stood in front of a small mirror, trying to steady her breathing. Her hands were shaking, not because she wasn't prepared. She'd practiced her piano piece 1,000 times in the empty music room after school. She could play it in her sleep. No, her hands were shaking because she kept checking her phone every 30 seconds, hoping to see a message that hadn't come. Her father had promised. Actually promised this time. "I'll be there, sweetheart. Front row. I wouldn't miss it for the world." Those were his exact words 3 days ago before he flew to Seattle for meetings. Claire had even heard him tell his assistant to block out the entire evening. No calls, no emails, nothing. But that was 3 days ago, and she hadn't heard from him since. "Claire, you're up in 5 minutes." The student coordinator peeked around the curtain, clipboard in hand. "You ready?" Claire nodded, not trusting her voice. She smoothed down her navy blue dress, the one her father had sent over from some expensive boutique downtown. He was good at that. Sending things, beautiful things, things that cost more than most families spent in a month. But being there, actually showing up, that was different. Her best friend Amy squeezed her shoulder. "Hey, you're going to be amazing. My dad's out there in the 3rd row. He told me he's excited to hear you play. Says you're the most talented kid in this whole school." Claire forced a smile. Amy's dad was always there. Every game, every show, every parent-teacher conference. He was a mechanic who worked crazy hours at his own shop, but he never missed Amy's stuff. Never. Claire used to think that was normal until she got older and realized her own life was anything but. "Thanks," Claire whispered. "That means a lot." Amy hugged her quick before rushing off to find her seat. Claire was left alone with her thoughts and the sound of applause as another act finished. She peeked through the side curtain, scanning the audience. Row after row of proud parents. Moms wiping tears. Dads with their arms around their wives, smiling. Front row, seat 7. That was supposed to be her dad's seat. The school had even put a little reserved sign on it with his name. Richard Richardson. The name that opened doors, that got buildings named after him, that made teachers extra nice to Claire whether she wanted it or not. The seat was empty. Claire's stomach dropped. She checked her phone again. Nothing, no text, no call. "Oh, sorry, honey, running late, just silence. Claire Richardson, you're up next." Her legs felt like rubber as she walked toward the stage entrance. Mrs. Palmer, the music teacher, gave her an encouraging nod. "You've got this, Claire. Just like in practice, breathe." The student before her took a bow to thunderous applause. Parents cheered, someone whistled. Claire heard a dad shout, "That's my boy!" And everyone laughed. The warmth in the room was almost suffocating. All these families together celebrating. Then her name echoed through the sound system. "Next up, we have Claire Richardson performing Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major." Claire stepped onto the stage and the spotlight hit her like a wave. She couldn't see the audience clearly anymore, just shapes and shadows in the glare of phone screens. She made her way to the grand piano, the one her father had donated to the school 2 years ago. There was even a little plaque on it with his name. She sat on the bench and adjusted her position. Her hands found the keys, familiar and cool under her fingertips. She took a breath and let her eyes adjust to the light enough to see the front row. Seat 7 was still empty. Something broke inside her chest, but she couldn't fall apart. Not here, not in front of everyone. So she did what she always did. She played. Her fingers moved across the keys and the first notes of the nocturne filled the auditorium. Her mother used to love this piece. Before the cancer took her 4 years ago, she would sit next to Claire on the piano bench and listen with her eyes closed, a soft smile on her face. "Music is feelings you can't put into words," she used to say. Right now, Claire understood exactly what she meant. She poured everything into the music. Every lonely dinner in that huge house with just her and the housekeeper. Every school event where she arrived in a town car instead of her dad's beat-up sedan like other kids. Every birthday where the presents were expensive but the person who mattered most wasn't there to see her open them. The notes were perfect. Her timing was flawless. Technically, it was probably the best she'd ever played, but about halfway through, Claire made a mistake. She glanced up, she saw them. The parents in the audience. Some were watching her, sure, but others were checking their watches. A few were on their phones, scrolling through emails or texts. A group of students in the back row were whispering to each other about something completely unrelated, laughing quietly. One parent yawned. They knew who she was. Everyone at Westbridge knew Claire Richardson, the girl whose dad owned Richardson Technologies, the girl who lived in that massive house up on Hilltop Drive, the girl who showed up to everything alone but never seemed to need anything because money fixed everything, right? Wrong. Claire's fingers kept moving, muscle memory taking over, but something had shifted. The warmth in the room from before had disappeared. Now it just felt cold, awkward, like everyone was sitting through her performance out of obligation rather than interest. She reached the final movement, the part where the music swells and gets more emotional. Her mother used to cry during this part. Claire's own eyes were stinging now, but she blinked the tears back. Just a few more measures. Just get through it. The final note rang out, clear and pure. It hung in the air for a moment, beautiful and lonely, like Claire herself. Then silence. Not the good kind of silence where everyone's taking in the beauty of what they just heard. The uncomfortable kind. The kind that made Claire's face flush hot and her hands start to shake again. A few people clapped. Mrs. Palmer was clapping from the side of the stage, her face sad and sympathetic. Some of the teachers joined in, that polite golf clap that adults do when they feel bad for you. A couple of parents clapped too, but it was scattered and weak. Most people just sat there. Claire stood frozen at the piano, her hands still touching the keys. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. This was worse than if no one had clapped at all. This was pity. This was everyone in the room feeling sorry for the rich girl whose daddy didn't love her enough to show up. She wanted to run. To disappear. To never have to face any of these people ever again. 3 seconds passed. It felt like a lifetime. Then something happened. In the middle section of the auditorium, a chair creaked. Claire's eyes, blurry with unshed tears, focused on movement. A man was standing up. Not rushing, not making a scene. Just standing. And then he started clapping. Slow, steady, real applause. The sound echoed through the silent auditorium like thunder. Claire stared at him. She didn't recognize him at first. He wasn't wearing a suit like most of the other dads. He had on a work jacket, the kind with a name patch on it, and jeans that had seen better days. His face was kind but tired, with lines around his eyes that came from hard work and long hours. He just kept clapping, looking right at her, and in his eyes Claire didn't see pity. She saw something else entirely. Understanding. Respect. Like he knew exactly how much courage it took to finish that piece when everyone else had already checked out. Claire's heart, which had felt shattered just moments before, felt something new, something she couldn't quite name yet. But for the first time that evening, she didn't feel completely alone. That one person clapping changed everything in an instant. Claire stood there at the piano, unable to look away from this stranger who had decided she mattered. His applause wasn't loud or showy. It was genuine, steady, like he meant every single clap. Then his daughter jumped up beside him. Amy, Claire's best friend. She was clapping so hard her hands had to be hurting, and tears were streaming down her face. That was beautiful, Claire. Amy's voice rang out across the quiet auditorium. That was so beautiful. Claire felt her own tears spill over. She couldn't hold them back anymore. Mrs. Palmer was the next to stand. The music teacher started clapping with real enthusiasm, the kind that made other people feel like they were missing something important. Then a parent in the front row stood up. Then another, and another. It was like watching dominoes fall, except in reverse. One by one, people rose to their feet. Some looked embarrassed, like they realized too late what they should have been doing all along. Others clapped because everyone else was. But some, the ones whose eyes met Claire's, clapped because they finally actually saw her. Not the rich girl, not Richard Richardson's daughter, just Claire. A kid who'd played something beautiful and deserved to be recognized for it. Within 30 seconds, the entire auditorium was standing. The applause was deafening now, but Claire's eyes kept going back to Amy's dad. He was still clapping, steady as ever, and when their eyes met, he gave her the smallest nod. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't dramatic. It just said, "I see you. You did good." That nod meant more than all the applause combined. Claire managed a shaky bow and walked off stage on legs that barely worked. Mrs. Palmer caught her in the wings and pulled her into a hug. "You were magnificent," she whispered. Absolutely magnificent. The rest of the talent show passed in a blur. Claire sat backstage, her heart still racing, trying to process what had just happened. Other kids performed. Parents cheered. The normalcy of it all felt strange after her moment in the spotlight had gone so wrong, and then so unexpectedly right. When the show finally ended, Claire knew she needed to find Amy and her dad. She had to thank him. Had to understand why he'd done what he did when nobody else would. The lobby was chaos. Parents and kids everywhere taking photos, congratulating each other. Claire pushed through the crowd, scanning for Amy's familiar face. She finally spotted them near the entrance. Amy saw her first and practically tackled her with a hug. "Claire, oh my gosh, you were incredible. I was so mad when nobody was clapping. I wanted to punch someone." Claire laughed through her tears. "Your dad? Where is he?" "Right here." Amy's father stepped forward, and up close Claire could see him more clearly. He looked tired, the kind of tired that came from working hard every single day. His hands were rough and calloused, with grease stains under his nails that probably never completely washed out. His jacket had a patch that said Tom on it, and there was a small oil stain on the shoulder. But his eyes were kind. "Really genuinely kind, Mr. Chen," Claire started, then stopped. That wasn't right. Amy's last name was different. "I'm sorry, I don't know your name." "It's Tom. Tom Brady." He smiled at her confused expression. "Yeah, I know. My parents thought they were hilarious. I'm a mechanic, not a football player." Claire laughed, a real laugh. "Mr. Brady, I just wanted to say thank you. You didn't have to do that. Nobody else was, and you stood up." Tom looked at her for a moment, really looked at her, the way adults rarely did with teenagers, like she was a real person whose feelings mattered. "Yes, I did have to," he said quietly. "You played beautifully. That kind of talent and dedication deserves respect. But everyone knows who I am," Claire said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "They know my dad. They probably think I have everything. Why would you?" "Because having everything and having what matters are two very different things," Tom interrupted gently. "And because I know what it's like when people don't show up for you." Amy squeezed Claire's hand. Claire noticed that Amy had tears in her eyes, too. Other families were starting to leave, walking past them toward the parking lot. A few parents glanced their way, some looking curious, others embarrassed. Claire heard whispers. She was used to whispers, but these felt different somehow. "Can we go outside?" Claire asked. "It's too crowded in here." The three of them walked out into the cool evening air. The parking lot was lit by tall streetlights, and you could see stars if you looked up past them. Claire took a deep breath, feeling like she could finally breathe properly for the first time all night. "Your dad couldn't make it?" Tom asked carefully. Not pushy, not nosy, just asking. Claire had practiced this answer 1,000,000 times. She had it down perfect. "Oh, he's traveling for work. Big meeting in Seattle. Last-minute thing. He wanted to be here, but you know how it is with business." The lie came out smooth as butter. She'd told it so many times it almost felt true. But then she looked at Tom's face and saw that he knew. He knew she was lying. Not because he called her out on it or challenged her. He just knew, the way people who've lived real life can see through the polite fictions we tell ourselves. "There's always a meeting," Claire said, her voice breaking. "There's always something more important. Seattle, Tokyo, London, doesn't matter. Just somewhere that isn't here, somewhere that isn't where I am." Amy wrapped her arm around Claire's shoulders. Tom didn't say anything right away, and Claire was grateful for that. She was so tired of adults jumping in with explanations or excuses or those terrible phrases like, "I'm sure he loves you," or, "He's doing his best." Instead, Tom just said, "That must be really lonely." And that was it. That was the thing that broke her. Not pity, not excuses, just acknowledgement. Someone finally saying out loud what Claire had been feeling for years. She started crying for real then. Not pretty crying either. The ugly kind where you can't catch your breath and your nose runs and you don't care who sees. Amy held her tight while Tom stood there, a steady presence, not uncomfortable with her tears like most adults would be. "I practiced so hard," Claire sobbed. "I wanted it to be perfect because maybe if it was perfect enough, he'd want to be there. Maybe I'd finally be worth it." "Stop," Tom said firmly but kindly. "Listen to me, Claire. You are worth it. You've always been worth it. His not showing up isn't about you. It's about him. And I know that doesn't make it hurt less, but you need to hear it anyway." Claire wiped her face with her hands, probably smearing her makeup everywhere. She didn't care. How do you know? You don't even know me. I know enough, Tom said. I know you kept playing even when nobody clapped. I know you play a piece that reminds you of someone you love. Amy told me about that. About your mom. Any kid who honors their parents' memory like that is worth showing up for. Claire looked at Amy in surprise. You told him about my mom? Amy nodded. I hope that's okay. I was worried about you this week. Dad's good at listening. She talks about you a lot, actually, Tom added. How you help her with homework even though you're in harder classes. How you share your lunch with her when she forgets hers. How you stood up for her when those girls were being mean last semester. You're a good friend, Claire. A good person. And you deserved better than an empty seat tonight. Claire didn't know what to say to that. She'd spent so long being Richard Richardson's daughter that she'd almost forgotten she was just Claire too. A regular kid who played piano and helped her friends and missed her mom and just wanted her dad to care enough to show up. Thank you, she whispered, for standing up, for clapping, for seeing me. Tom smiled, the lines around his eyes crinkling. Anytime. And I mean that. If you ever need someone to show up, you let me know. A car pulled up then, a fancy black town car with a driver in a suit. Claire recognized it immediately. Her ride home. The driver got out and opened the back door, waiting. That's me, Claire said reluctantly. She didn't want to go back to that big empty house. Not yet, hey, Amy said. Want to come over tomorrow? We could watch movies or something. Dad makes really good popcorn. Claire looked at Tom, who nodded. You're always welcome. Fair warning, though. Our apartment is tiny and we don't have a pool or anything fancy. That sounds perfect, Claire said, and she meant it. I'd really like that. She hugged Amy goodbye, then did something surprising even to herself. She hugged Tom too, just quickly, but enough to say thank you in a way words couldn't quite capture. As the town car pulled away, Claire looked back through the rear window. Tom and Amy were standing there under the streetlight waving. A dad and his daughter heading home together. Something so simple. Something Claire wanted more than anything money could buy. For the first time in a long time, she felt just a little bit less alone. The video showed up online by Saturday morning. Claire was still in bed when Amy started blowing up her phone with texts. OMG, Claire checked Twitter, followed by about 15 more messages with links and screenshots. Claire rubbed her eyes and clicked the first link. Her stomach dropped. Someone had recorded the whole thing. Her playing, the awkward silence, and then Tom standing up alone and starting to clap. The video was already at 200,000 views and climbing fast. The caption read, Single dad shows billionaire CEO how to actually parent. The comment section was brutal. People were tearing her father apart. Some were sympathetic to Claire, calling her brave and talented. Others said she probably deserved it for being spoiled. But most were focused on Tom, calling him a hero, sharing the video everywhere. By Sunday afternoon, the video had gone viral. 5 million views. News websites were picking it up. Someone had figured out who Claire was, who her father was, and the story practically wrote itself. Absent billionaire father, lonely daughter. Working class hero steps in. It was like something out of a movie, except it was Claire's real life being broadcast to millions of strangers. Claire's phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Claire Richardson? A woman's voice, professional and sharp. Yes? This is Jennifer Park, your father's executive assistant. Your father wanted me to inform you that he's aware of the social media situation and will be addressing it with you when he returns from Tokyo on Tuesday. Not how are you doing, not are you okay? Just that he was aware of the situation. Okay, Claire said quietly. He also wanted me to remind you that family matters should remain private. Perhaps in the future be more mindful of who might be recording. Claire felt anger flash hot in her chest. I didn't ask anyone to record it. And maybe if he'd actually shown up, there wouldn't be anything to record. There was a pause. I'll let him know you called. The line went dead. Claire threw her phone across the room. It bounced off her bed and landed on the floor. She pulled her knees up to her chest and tried not to cry. Even now, even with millions of people seeing what happened, it was somehow still her fault. That afternoon, she went to Amy's apartment like they'd planned. The building was on the east side of town, in a neighborhood Claire rarely visited. The kind of place where people actually knew their neighbors and kids played in the parking lot. Tom's apartment was above the garage where he worked, accessible by an exterior staircase that had rust spots on the railing. Amy opened the door before Claire could knock. Okay, so don't freak out, but the video is everywhere. My phone's been going crazy. People from school are texting me asking about you. Even the principal called my dad. What did he say? Claire asked, stepping inside. The apartment was small. Really small. The kitchen, living room, and dining area were all basically one room. But it was clean and cozy, with mismatched furniture that looked comfortable and lived in. Pictures covered the walls. Amy at different ages, smiling in school photos and candid shots. Tom and Amy together at the beach at a baseball game, making silly faces. He told Principal Morrison that you're a wonderful kid and what happened was nobody's business but ours. Tom appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. I also told him that if anyone bothers you at school about this, I want to know about it. Claire felt her throat get tight. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, I did. Tom smiled. Now I was promised we were watching movies and eating popcorn. Amy, you get the movies set up. Claire, you're on popcorn duty with me. In the tiny kitchen, Tom showed Claire how he made popcorn the old-fashioned way, in a pot on the stove. Not microwave bags, not fancy air poppers. Just oil, kernels, and a lid. You have to keep shaking it, Tom explained, demonstrating. Otherwise, it burns on the bottom. My dad taught me this when I was about 10. It's not fancy, but it tastes better than anything else. Claire watched him work, noticing details. The way he moved efficiently in the small space. The little herb garden on the windowsill above the sink. The drawing Amy had made years ago, stuck to the fridge with a magnet. A simple life, but full of care and attention. Can I ask you something? Claire said as the kernels started popping. Sure. Why were you so nice to me? You don't even know me. Tom kept shaking the pot, not looking at her. Amy's mom left when she was 7. Just packed up one day while I was at work and Amy was at school. Didn't leave a note or anything. We came home to an empty apartment. Half the furniture gone. All her stuff gone. Claire didn't know what to say. Amy had never mentioned this. The next few years were rough. Tom continued. I was working 60, 70 hours a week trying to keep us afloat. Couldn't always make it to school stuff. Amy would be the only kid without a parent at things sometimes, and I saw how other people looked at her, like she was broken, like she came from a broken home. The popping was slowing down now. Tom turned off the heat. There was this one teacher, Mr. Garcia. 5th grade. He treated Amy exactly the same as every other kid. Never made a big deal about her mom being gone. Never gave her pity. Just showed up for her, you know? Came to her science fair presentation on his day off. Wrote her encouraging notes on her homework. Nothing huge. Just consistent. Tom poured the popcorn into a big bowl. That consistency saved her. Showed her she was worth showing up for, even when things weren't perfect. When I saw you up there on that stage, finishing that piece even though nobody was paying attention, I saw that same kind of courage. The kind it takes to keep going when you feel invisible. Claire's eyes were burning with tears again. I feel invisible all the time. I know, Tom said gently. But you're not. Amy sees you, Mrs. Palmer sees you, and now I see you too. You're not alone, Claire. They watched movies that afternoon, stupid comedies that made them laugh until their sides hurt. Tom made grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner, the bread perfectly golden and crispy. They ate at the small dining table talking about everything and nothing. School, music, Amy's terrible math teacher, Tom's crazy customers at the garage. Nobody mentioned the video. Nobody mentioned her father. For a few hours, Claire got to just be a regular kid hanging out with a friend and her dad. It was the best she'd felt in months. When it was time to go home, Tom walked her down to where her driver was waiting. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Thank you, Claire said. For today, for everything. You're welcome here anytime, Tom said. I mean that. Even if Amy's busy or whatever. You need a place to just breathe, you come here. Claire hugged him, and this time it didn't feel awkward or surprising. It felt natural. Like hugging family. The ride home took 20 minutes. 20 minutes from Tom's warm, cramped apartment to Claire's cold, enormous house. The contrast had never felt sharper. She walked through the front door into marble floors and high ceilings and silence. So much silence. Mrs. Chen, the housekeeper, poked her head out from the kitchen. Did you have dinner, Claire? Yeah, I ate with friends. Thanks, Mrs. Chen. Claire went upstairs to her room. It was bigger than Tom's entire living room. Walk-in closet, private bathroom, a 4-poster bed with expensive sheets. Everything a teenager could want, supposedly. She sat at her desk and opened her laptop. The video was still spreading. 8 million views now. Her email was flooded with interview requests from news stations, magazines, podcasts. Her father's PR team had sent a message asking her to please refrain from commenting publicly. There was also an email from Principal Morrison. Subject line, checking in. She opened it. Dear Claire, I wanted to reach out personally after Friday's talent show. Your performance was exceptional, and I'm sorry the response wasn't what you deserved in the moment. I've heard from multiple parents expressing regret for not being more engaged. Please know that you have support here at Westbridge. If you need anything, my door is always open. Claire closed the laptop and looked around her room, at all the things money could buy. The designer clothes in her closet, the top-of-the-line laptop and phone, the expensive piano downstairs, the trust fund she'd inherit when she turned 18. Then she thought about Tom's apartment. The popcorn made in a regular pot, the grilled cheese sandwiches, the mismatched furniture and the photos on every wall, the way Tom really listened when she talked, the way Amy squeezed her hand and meant it. She pulled out her phone and texted Amy, "Thank you for today. Your dad is really special. You're lucky to have him." Amy's response came quick. "I know, and now you have him too. He's already talking about teaching you how to change a tire next weekend, Loel." Claire smiled despite herself. She went to her closet and pulled out the navy blue dress from the talent show. She'd probably never wear it again. Too many memories attached to it now. But instead of feeling sad about that, she felt something else. Something like relief. That girl who wore this dress, who stood alone on that stage, who believed she had to be perfect to be loved. Maybe she was changing. Maybe she didn't have to be that girl anymore. Her phone buzzed with a notification. The video was now at 10 million views, but Claire didn't open it. Instead, she plugged her phone in to charge and got ready for bed. Tomorrow, her father would be back. There would be a conversation, probably not a good one. The video would keep spreading. School would be weird for a while, but she also had dinner plans with Amy and Tom on Tuesday. And Tom was going to teach her about cars, which seemed random but also kind of cool. And Mrs. Palmer had asked if she wanted to help with the spring recital planning. Small things. Normal things. Things that had nothing to do with money or status or being Richard Richardson's daughter. As Claire turned off her light, she realized something. She'd spent years trying to be enough for her father. Trying to be perfect enough, successful enough, convenient enough for him to want to be around. But Tom had shown her something different. She was already enough. She always had been. And the people who mattered would show up. Not because she earned it, but because that's what people who care actually do. They just show up. Richard Richardson's private jet landed Tuesday morning at exactly 9:30. By 10:15, he was walking through the front door of his mansion for the first time in 3 weeks. His assistant had briefed him during the flight. The video, the comments, the PR nightmare. He'd already had 2 board members call him expressing concern about the company's image. Claire heard his car pull up. She was in the music room practicing a new piece, but her fingers froze on the keys when she heard his footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, purposeful. The walk of a man who ran a billion-dollar company and wasn't used to being questioned. Claire. He appeared in the doorway, still in his travel clothes. He looked tired, but then again, he always looked tired. "We need to talk." Claire turned on the piano bench to face him. "Hi, Dad, welcome home." This video situation. Richard loosened his tie and sat in one of the expensive chairs by the window. "It's gotten out of hand. I've had the PR team working overtime to manage the narrative." "Manage the narrative," Claire repeated slowly. "Is that what I am? A narrative? Don't be dramatic. You know what I mean. This is affecting the company. Our investors are concerned about leadership stability. You missed my performance." Claire's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "That's what actually happened. Everything else came after." Richard sighed, the sigh of a busy man being inconvenienced. "Claire, I was closing a deal worth $300 million. The timing was critical. I sent you a dress. I had flowers delivered to the school office. Well, I didn't want flowers. I wanted my dad. I'm building something important here. Richardson Technologies is changing the world. The AI systems we're developing will revolutionize healthcare, education, everything. That requires sacrifice. Surely you understand that. Claire stood up from the piano bench. Mr. Brady works 60 hours a week at a garage. He fixes cars and changes oil and comes home smelling like grease. And he was there for Amy's talent show. He's there for everything. So don't tell me it's about being busy. Mr. Brady. Richard looked confused. Tom Brady, Amy's dad. The man in the video. The one who stood up and clapped when nobody else would. The one who showed up. Richard's jaw tightened. The mechanic. Yes, I've been briefed. Claire, I don't think you understand the complexity of what I do. I'm not just fixing cars. I'm running a global corporation with 40,000 employees depending on me. And I'm your daughter depending on you. Claire shot back. But I guess that's less important than your shareholders. That's not fair. You want to talk about fair? Claire could feel years of hurt bubbling up. You know what's not fair? Being 14 years old and having to explain to people why my dad didn't come to Mom's memorial service because he had a conference call. Being 15 and eating birthday dinner alone because you were in London. Being 16 and standing on a stage playing Mom's favorite piece while your seat sat empty. I sent my regrets about the memorial. The board chair understood. And I called you on your birthday. You sent an email. Claire's voice cracked. To your own wife's memorial, you sent an email saying you couldn't make it. And yeah, you called on my birthday. For 6 minutes. I timed it. Then your assistant came on and said you had to go. Richard stood up, his face flushing. I am providing you with everything. This house, your school, your music lessons, your future. Do you have any idea how many kids would love to have what you have? Then give it to them. Claire was crying now. I don't want the house or the money or any of it. I just want a dad who shows up. That's all I've ever wanted. The room went quiet. Richard stared at his daughter. This 16-year-old girl who looked so much like her mother, it sometimes hurt to look at her. But her mother had been gentle, understanding of his work. Claire was different. She was demanding something from him he didn't know how to give. I'm doing my best, he said finally, his voice softer. No, you're not, Claire said. You're doing what's easiest. Work is easy for you. Numbers and deals and meetings, that's your comfort zone. But being a dad, actually being present, that's hard, and you don't want to do hard things in your personal life. Richard sat back down heavily. For the first time in years, he didn't have a response. No counter-argument. No business logic to justify his choices. I've been having dinner at Tom's apartment, Claire continued, wiping her face. Every Tuesday. He makes grilled cheese and we watch movies. His apartment is tiny. He doesn't have money. But he makes time. He asks about my day and actually listens to the answer. He's teaching me how cars work. He came to my performance on a Friday after working a full shift and he clapped because I deserved it. What are you saying, Claire? I'm saying a stranger is being more of a father to me than you are. And that's really, really sad. Richard put his head in his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were red. After your mother died, I threw myself into work because I didn't know how else to cope. The company needed me. The company made sense. But you needed things I didn't know how to give. And the longer I stayed away, the easier it became to just keep staying away. It was the most honest thing her father had said in years. Claire sat back down on the piano bench. I watched the video, Richard admitted. On the plane. I watched it probably 20 times. And every time I saw that empty seat where I should have been, I saw you finish playing to silence. And I saw that man stand up for you when I wasn't there to do it myself. His name is Tom. Tom. Richard nodded. I owe him a thank you. And I owe you an apology. Several years' worth of apologies, actually. I don't want apologies, Claire said quietly. I want you to change. I don't know if I can be what you need me to be. I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to try. Actually try. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Outside, they could hear Mrs. Chen vacuuming somewhere in the house. Normal sounds of a normal day, but nothing about this conversation was normal. I have a board meeting Thursday, Richard said slowly, but I could cancel it. We could have dinner, just us, here or wherever you want. Claire wanted to believe him, but she'd heard promises before. And next week? And the week after that? I don't know, Richard admitted. I can't promise I'll be perfect at this. I'll probably mess up. I'll probably disappoint you again. But I can promise to try. Actually try, like you said. It wasn't the declaration of change Claire had dreamed of. No dramatic transformation. No promises of always being there. But it was honest. And maybe honesty was a start. Okay, Claire said. Thursday dinner, but Dad? If you cancel, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. I can't keep hoping you'll change if you won't actually do anything different. Richard nodded. Thursday. I'll be there. And one more thing, Claire added. I want you to meet Tom and Amy. They're important to me, and if you're going to be in my life, you need to know the people in my life. She could see her father's discomfort with that idea. Richard Richardson didn't socialize with mechanics. His world was boardrooms and country clubs and private jets. But he surprised her. All right. Set it up. After he left the room, Claire sat at the piano for a long time. She didn't play, just sat there thinking. Her father had said the right things. But words were easy. She'd learned that lesson well over the years. What mattered was what came next. She pulled out her phone and texted Amy. My dad wants to meet your dad. Is that weird? Amy's response was immediate. So weird, but also kinda cool. Dad says he's free Saturday if that works. Claire smiled. Saturday, 3 days away. 3 days to see if her father would actually follow through on anything he'd said. She texted back. Saturday works. Tell your dad thank you for everything. Then she did something she hadn't done in a long time. She called her father's office directly, not through his assistant. He picked up on the third ring. Claire, is everything okay? Yeah. I just wanted to say that I appreciate you being honest with me today. That meant something. There was a pause. Thank you for giving me another chance. Don't make me regret it, Claire said, but her tone was gentle. I won't. Or I'll try not to. Thursday, 6 o'clock. Your choice of restaurant. Actually, can we just order pizza and eat here? I'm tired of fancy restaurants. Richard actually laughed. Pizza it is. After they hung up, Claire finally started playing again. Not Chopin this time. Something lighter, something hopeful. Her fingers moved across the keys, and for the first time in a while, the house didn't feel quite so empty. She didn't know if her father would really change. People didn't usually transform overnight, especially people as set in their ways as Richard Richardson. But he'd taken a first step. He'd admitted the truth. He'd made a promise. Now came the hard part. Following through. Claire played until her fingers got tired, until the afternoon light shifted through the windows and painted the walls gold. When she finally stopped, she felt different. Lighter somehow. Like something heavy she'd been carrying for years had been set down, at least for a moment. Thursday would tell her if it was real. Saturday would tell her even more. But for right now, in this moment, she had something she hadn't had in a long time. Hope. And sometimes hope was enough to keep going. Enough to keep believing that things could be different, that people could change, that an empty seat didn't have to stay empty forever. Claire closed the piano lid gently and went to find Mrs. Chen. She was suddenly hungry, and for once, she didn't want to eat alone. Even just having dinner with the housekeeper sounded good. Company, conversation, connection, the things that actually mattered. The things that made a house feel like a home. Thursday arrived, and Claire spent the entire day nervous. She kept checking the time, watching the hours tick by. Her father had promised 6 o'clock. Pizza at home, just the two of them. But promises had been broken before, and Claire had learned not to get her hopes up too high. At 5:30, she changed her shirt for the third time. Amy had been texting her encouragement all day. He'll show up, and if he doesn't, you're having dinner with us. Dad's making his famous spaghetti. Claire appreciated the backup plan. It made the possibility of disappointment slightly less terrifying. At 5:45, she heard a car in the driveway. Her heart jumped. She went to the window and saw her father's car pulling in. He was early. Richard Richardson was actually early. She watched him get out carrying 2 pizza boxes and a bag from the local Italian place. He looked up at the house, seemed to steel himself, then walked toward the door. Claire met him in the foyer. You came. I said I would. Richard held up the pizzas. I got half pepperoni, half veggie. Wasn't sure what you wanted these days. Pepperoni's good. Claire led him to the kitchen, which felt strange. They never ate in the kitchen. The formal dining room was where meals happened on the rare occasions they ate together. But the kitchen felt more casual. More normal. They sat at the counter, something they'd never done before. Richard opened the boxes and served slices onto paper plates. No fine china. No servers, just a dad and his daughter eating pizza. How was school? Richard asked, and it sounded awkward coming from him, like he wasn't used to asking that question. It was okay. People are still talking about the video, but it's dying down. Mrs. Palmer asked me to help with the spring recital. That's good. You'd be excellent at that. Richard took a bite of pizza, chewed slowly. I canceled 3 meetings today. Made sure nothing would interrupt dinner. Claire looked at him, really looked at him. Her father looked older than she remembered. More gray in his hair, deeper lines around his eyes. Thank you, she said quietly. They ate in silence for a minute. Not uncomfortable silence, just the quiet of 2 people who were out of practice at being together. I've been thinking a lot, Richard said finally, about what you said Tuesday. About how work is my comfort zone. You were right. After your mother died, I didn't know how to be around you. You looked so much like her, and every time I saw you, I felt the loss all over again. Work was easier. Work didn't make me feel things I couldn't control. Claire set down her pizza slice. I lost her too, Dad. I needed you, and you left me alone with that grief. I know, and I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Richard's voice cracked slightly. I told myself I was providing for you, securing your future, building something that would take care of you forever. But what you needed was just me, present, showing up, being your father. So what's different now? Claire asked. What changed? I saw myself through other people's eyes. Through that video, through the comments, through watching a complete stranger do for you what I should have been doing all along. Richard paused. And honestly, I saw myself through your eyes. The disappointment, the hurt, the resignation. You'd stopped expecting anything from me, Claire. My own daughter had given up on me. That's what finally broke through. Claire felt tears building. I haven't given up completely. If I had, I wouldn't have confronted you. I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I don't deserve that grace, but I'm grateful for it. Richard reached across and squeezed her hand. I can't undo the past 4 years. I can't get back the performances I missed or the birthdays I screwed up. But I can do better going forward, if you'll let me. I want to believe you, Claire said, but I need to see it. Words are easy, Dad. Showing up is hard. You're right. So let me show you. Richard pulled out his phone and opened his calendar. Look, I've blocked out every Tuesday and Thursday evening. Family time. Non-negotiable. And I've told my assistant that any school events you have get priority on my schedule. She's going to check with you weekly. Claire looked at the calendar. He'd actually done it. Color-coded blocks marked Claire in his schedule. Protected time that his assistant couldn't book over. And Saturday, Richard continued. You said I should meet Tom and Amy. I'd like to do that. If the invitation still stands. It stands, Claire said. But Dad, you need to understand something. Tom isn't like the people you usually deal with. He's not going to be impressed by your money or your company. He's just a regular guy who works hard and loves his daughter. I think that's exactly why I need to meet him, Richard said quietly. He's doing something right that I got wrong. Maybe I can learn something. They finished eating and moved to the living room. Richard asked about her classes, her friends, her music. Really asked, follow-up questions and everything. He told her about a project at work, but in a way that was sharing his life, not bragging or making excuses. It wasn't perfect. There were awkward pauses, moments where neither of them knew quite what to say. But it was real. It was a start. When it got late, Richard stood to leave. I'm staying at the downtown office tonight. Have an early breakfast meeting. But Tuesday I'll be here for dinner. What do you want to eat? Could we cook something? Together? Claire asked hesitantly. Richard looked surprised, then smiled. I'm not much of a cook, but I'm willing to try. What did you have in mind? Mom's recipe for chicken parmesan. It's in her old cookbook. Richard's eyes got misty. That sounds perfect. I'll be here at 5. We can cook together. After he left, Claire sat on the couch for a long time. She felt cautiously optimistic. One dinner didn't fix everything. One conversation didn't heal years of hurt. But it was something. A first step on a long journey. She texted Amy. Dinner happened. It was good. Really good. Amy's response was immediate. Yes, told you. Saturday is still on, right? Dad's already nervous, LOL, Claire smiled. Tell him not to worry. My dad's probably more nervous. Saturday morning came bright and clear. Richard picked Claire up at 11, which was weird because she couldn't remember the last time she'd been in a car with just her father driving. No driver, no assistant, just them. So, where are we going exactly? Richard asked as Claire gave him directions. Tom's garage. He said to come by around lunchtime. He's going to show us around and then we're grabbing food. At a garage, Richard repeated like he was trying to make sense of this. Dad, please don't be weird about this. I'm not being weird. I'm just out of my element. Good. Maybe that's exactly where you need to be. They pulled up to Brady's Auto Repair, a modest building with a parking lot full of cars in various states of repair. Tom was outside wiping his hands on a rag, wearing his usual work clothes. Amy stood next to him waving when she saw Claire's dad's car. Richard parked and they got out. Claire could feel her father's discomfort, but to his credit he walked forward with his hand extended. Mr. Brady, I'm Richard. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Tom shook his hand firmly. Call me Tom and no need to thank me. Claire's important to Amy, which makes her important to us. She speaks very highly of you, both of you. Richard glanced at Amy, who was trying not to grin. Come on, I'll show you around. Tom led them into the garage, where 2 cars were up on lifts and tools covered every surface. Not as fancy as what you're used to, I'm sure. It's honest work, Richard said, looking around with genuine interest. Building something with your hands. I've forgotten what that's like. They spent an hour at the garage. Tom explained what he was working on, showed Claire how to check oil levels, and even let Richard try his hand at changing a tire. It was awkward at first, but Tom was patient, and Richard was genuinely trying. Amy and Claire hung back, watching their fathers interact. This is so weird, Amy whispered. Weird good or weird bad? Claire asked. Weird good, I think. Your dad's actually kind of normal when he's not in CEO mode. They grabbed lunch at a small diner nearby, squeezing into a booth made for 4. The conversation flowed easier than Claire expected. Tom asked Richard about his work, and Richard asked Tom about the garage. Amy told embarrassing stories about Claire from school, and Claire retaliated with stories about Amy. At one point, Richard said, Tom, I want to thank you properly for what you did at the talent show. For Claire. Tom shook his head. You don't need to thank me for basic human decency. Maybe I do, Richard said quietly. Maybe I need to remember what that looks like. You stood up when I should have been there standing beside her. You're here now, Tom said simply. That counts for something. I'm trying to make it count for more than something. I'm trying to actually be present. It's harder than I thought it would be, Tom smiled. Being a parent is the hardest job there is. I mess up all the time. Ask Amy. It's true, Amy confirmed. Last week he tried to help me with algebra and made it worse. Everyone laughed and the tension broke. They talked about normal things, school, music, cars, life, just 4 people sharing a meal. When lunch ended and they were standing in the parking lot saying goodbye, Richard did something that surprised everyone. He hugged Claire. A real hug, not a quick pat on the shoulder. I'm proud of you, he whispered, for standing up to me, for knowing what you deserved, for not giving up. Claire hugged him back, tears in her eyes. Don't make me regret giving you another chance. I won't, I promise. As they drove home, Claire looked out the window at the passing streets. Nothing had magically fixed itself. Her father was still who he was, driven, work-focused, uncomfortable with emotions. But he was trying, really genuinely trying, and Tom had shown them both something important. That showing up didn't require perfection. It just required presence, consistency, the choice to be there even when it was hard, even when you didn't have all the answers. Dad, Claire said as they pulled into the driveway. Yeah? Tuesday. Don't forget. 5 o'clock, chicken parmesan. I'll be here, Richard said, and this time, Claire believed him, because sometimes all it takes is one person standing up and clapping to remind us what really matters, and sometimes that reminder changes everything.